The Enfield haunting, a dark true story. In 1977, an 11-year-old girl spoke with the voice of a dead man. The voice was not imagined. It was recorded. For hours it spoke through her, claiming it had died in the very house she lived in, and that it never left. Police heard it. Journalists recorded it. Investigators watched it happen. This is the Enfield haunting. Welcome to Unseen Files, the untold stories of the unseen. Like and subscribe in the channel. The house. The house stood at 284 Green Street in Enfield, North London, a small council home. Ordinary, easy to forget. Inside lived Peggy Hodgson, a single mother and her 4 children. Nothing about the house felt wrong, until the night the furniture moved. The first night. Late one evening, Peggy heard a loud crash upstairs. She rushed to her daughter's bedroom and froze. 2 heavy armchairs were sliding across the floor, slowly, deliberately, without anyone touching them. Peggy tried to push them back. They wouldn't move. Then, right in front of her, the chairs slid again. She called the police. When officers arrived, they searched the house. No intruders, no explanation. But before leaving, one officer watched a chair lift off the floor and move on its own. He later signed a written statement. The knocking. Over the next few days, the house grew louder. Knocking sounds came from inside the walls. Not random, intelligent. 3 knocks meant yes. 2 knocks meant no. At night, violent banging echoed through the house, as if something trapped inside the walls was pounding to be heard. Objects began flying, toys, books, furniture, not falling, thrown. The girl. By September 1977, the activity chose a target. Janet Hodgson, 11 years old. Janet began screaming at night, claiming something was in her room. She suffered seizures, blackouts. One evening, witnesses watched as Janet was dragged from her bed, sliding across the floor without touching it. Her body stiffened. Her eyes rolled back. And then she spoke. The voice. The voice was deep, hoarse, male. "I'm still here," it said. "I died in that chair." The entity claimed to be Bill Wilkins, a former resident who had suffered a fatal hemorrhage in the living room. Later, records confirmed the man existed. Janet had never known his name. The voice spoke for hours at a time. Doctors later stated that speaking in that harsh tone for so long should have severely damaged her vocal cords. But when examined, her throat was unharmed. The voice seemed aware. It answered questions, argued with people, mocked skeptics. Sometimes it sounded tired, sometimes angry, sometimes disturbingly human. Media attention. Word spread fast. Journalists arrived, photographers, radio crews. The house was suddenly crowded with witnesses. Everything was documented. Tape recorders captured the voice. Cameras captured flying objects. Reporters watched furniture move on its own. Among the investigators was Maurice Gross, a member of the Society for Psychical Research. He arrived convinced it was all nonsense. He left convinced something was happening. Gross would spend nearly 2 years investigating the case. He witnessed objects appear in midair. Furniture slide across rooms, the voice speaking intelligently through Janet. At times, it answered questions it shouldn't have known. The levitation. One of the most disturbing events occurred late one night. Janet was in bed. Witnesses were present. Suddenly, her body rose off the mattress. She floated several feet into the air. Then, without warning, she slammed into the wall. Photographs taken that night showed Janet suspended mid-motion. No wires, no supports, no explanation. Skeptics claimed the photos were staged. But even skeptics admitted something strange was happening, especially because the activity continued, even when Janet wasn't home. Skepticism and controversy. Not everyone believed. Some accused Janet of faking the events. On rare occasions, she was caught bending spoons or attempting tricks, leading critics to declare the entire case a hoax. But investigators pointed out something important. The most intense activity often happened when Janet was asleep, restrained, or not even in the house. Police officers, journalists, independent witnesses. Over 30 people signed statements confirming unexplained events. The hoax explanation didn't cover everything. The decline. By 1979, the activity began to fade. The knocking slowed. The voice appeared less often. Objects stopped flying. Then, one day, it stopped entirely. No final message, no goodbye, just silence. The Hodgson family eventually moved out. New families moved in. The house returned to normal, or at least, it seemed to. The question that remains, so what really happened at 284 Green Street? Was it a hoax? An attention-seeking child caught up in something she couldn't control? Was it a psychological phenomenon known as a poltergeist effect? Or was it something else entirely? Something intelligent? Something that used a child as a doorway? To this day, the Enfield haunting remains one of the most investigated and debated paranormal cases in history. And whatever spoke through Janet Hodgson was never proven to have left. If you were there, if you heard the voice, if you watched a child rise into the air, what would you believe? Because sometimes, the scariest stories aren't the ones without evidence. They're the ones with too much. Thank you for watching Unseen Files, the untold stories of the unseen. If you enjoy dark legends and haunted stories from around the world, like the video, subscribe to the channel, and tell me in the comments.